Indiana Basketball Weekly Show on the Grilling Truth Sports Network. The Grilling Truth, as always, is powered by betting.net. Betting.net is your best bet for finding online casino or sports book that's right for you. Make sure you check out Indiana or betting.net. What the hell's Indiana, Steve? All right, guys. I am your co-host, Mike Goodpaster. Right now, I'd like to welcome in 1981 national champion Steve Risley. How you doing, Steve?
Hey, doing good today, Mike. How are you doing?
I am awesome, Steve. But let's go ahead and
What's
look
the
at last
temperature down
night's.
there?
It's cold, Steve. It is right now. It's 28 though. It's not bad.
Oh, that's a heat wave.
I know, but
Yeah,
whatever.
they're
It's
they're
cold as
piping
hell.
in. We got Super Bowl coming up here in a couple weeks, and they're piping in all the warm air into LA right now. So we're gonna hit 78 today, they say.
So they're piping in the warm air and getting rid of the homeless people.
Homeless people, definitely. Yeah, just putting them on boats with no engines and sending them out to sea.
All right, last night the Indiana Hoosiers 74-57 winners over the Penn State Nittany Lions. A little bit of a difference in the last 25 days. January 2nd, of course, IU lost by 3 points at Penn State. And I mean, right now, the thing that stood out to me last night was the offense, and it has to. Made 10 of 13 3-pointers, good for 76.9%. Easily the highest conversion rate of the season. They shot free throws well. I mean, they shot well, and I think this is all a byproduct of Xavier Johnson. When he plays well, this is a really good basketball team.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah, Johnson led all scorers with 19 points. Race Thompson pitched in 18, and Trace Jackson 15, and that was pretty much the bulk of the scoring. Everybody else was balanced in there in a single digit number somewhere. But I don't know, Mike. One of the things that I've kind of tried to pay attention to this because I'm looking at some of these other players like Miller Kopp, and things like that. And Indiana only takes 51 shots yesterday in a game. I mean, I don't, relative, do you feel that's for an offensive threat that this team is? Do you think it's adequate in their shots, or are they being just a little bit too patient on offense?
I don't know that you can be too patient on offense, and I would say this: they took 51 shots, but they made over 50% of the shots.
Sure.
They made 80% from 3-point range. So my point is this: if you're taking 51 shots and you're moving the ball around a little bit more, maybe that's why you had the 10 or 13 from 3-point range. And when you see the games where there's 65, 70 shots, then I think maybe you're rushing stuff more. And to me, they played almost a perfect first half. And I've heard people say, well, they got outscored in the second half. They're up 46-17. There's not too many teams that are going to keep that intensity and keep playing like that for an entire game. And when Penn State did make a little bit of a run in the second half, Indiana responded almost immediately, which is what we have not seen in the past. With Purdue, they got up. Purdue makes a run. Purdue gets the lead, and then it's, you're scratching and clawing to get the win.
Right.
So to me, I mean, 51 shots is fine if you're
Okay.
making
All right.
27 of
Very
them.
fair. I would agree with you, but I want to get your opinion on it. I don't think they, in watching the game last night and this morning, I really didn't see what I would call a horribly bad shot taken by Indiana. I mean, I thought they were fairly patient. Their spacing is still good offensively, and they're really unselfishly working to get the best shot. I think for this basketball team, rather than just trying to put up any shot or one scoring player getting greedy, saying, "I need to have the ball in my hands. I'm going to shoot every time I touch it." It does not happen with this team. I think another key factor of this team was, as we talked about after the Michigan game, that we thought that there would be some form of a what I will call a come to Jesus discussion, either in practice or in the locker room with Coach Woodson, if he's partaking in any part of what the Bob Knight era brought and taught, Mike and those of us that played in that era, there was probably a come to Jesus. And I thought the most impressive thing was the high level of intensity that Indiana came out with at the start of both halves. I felt clearly Indiana won the first 5 minutes of the first half, and they clearly came right back out and won the first 5 minutes of the second half. Now, as you said, sustaining that effort for that long a period of time when you're up as much as 27, 28 points in the second half of a ball game is a difficult thing for any basketball team to do. And there are very few teams that can maintain that level of intensity when you're
Well, you
playing under
can't
those
because you're up by
circumstances.
30 and you're going to be subbing a little bit more too.
Well,
And
I looked at that and they played 11 players, but really the rotation was 8 players. There were 8 players at 20 minutes or above. And then actually at the 10-minute mark, Geronimo, I don't know if you picked up on that or not, but Geronimo was very lackadaisical getting out
that's
to.
what I was going to bring up. And they got his ass out of the game right away.
And Knight said, Knight.
That's all right. You can call him Knight.
I was watching the press conference afterwards, and a reporter asked him, "Was that an injury decision or a coach's decision?" And Woody smiled, looked at the guy, and said, "It was a coach's decision." So I love seeing that because that's the exact answer that Knight would give. I keep a thing on my phone here. Let me see if I can find it for you real quick. Go ahead and talk while I find this.
Yeah, I think the other thing
address that issue. The fact that he did pull him and that Mike is letting these players know if you don't give effort, you're not going to play.
Yeah, and that was not the case in the Archie Miller era. So, I mean, the other thing that stood out to me was Xavier Johnson. He was steady, 19 points on 3 for 3, 3-point shooting, 6 assists. And I think what we do see is when Xavier Johnson plays well, or whoever, whether it's Rob Fennessy, whoever the point guard is, that Trace and Race seem to dominate. Tamar Bates hit 2 threes, which I don't think he's made one in like over a month. So that helped also. And I think it was one of these things where they came out, the first couple fell, and then everybody it's kind of like free throws. When a guy come out and misses 1 or 2 free throws, it has a tendency to put a little bit more pressure on everybody. You miss more free throws. And last night, when's the last time Indiana shot 80% from the free throw line, Steve?
And if they ever shot 74% from 3-point, and 13 shots is a relative number for a smooth running offense. That's got the dominant inside play that this team does. 13's a fair amount of 3-point shots.
And how about this, Steve? When you talk about just 51 shots, you only took 51 shots because you're making them. So it's not like you're getting a bunch of rebounds and having to put the ball back in either.
Exactly. That's a very good point there, addressing that situation too. But here's a quote from Bob Knight, and I remember hearing this more times than not. Quote Bob Knight, "The greatest motivator in the world is your ass on the bench. Ass meets bench. Bench retains ass. Ass transmits signals to the brain. Brain transmits signals to the body. Body gets ass off bench and plays better. It's a hell of a sequence." Bob Knight.
It's true.
And you as a coach, I'm sure you've employed that exact same strategy many times.
All the time. Because that is the best way to get people's attention. All right, real quick, before we look ahead to Indiana's upcoming week, betting.net finds the best promotions, offers, and bonus codes so you don't have to. Head over to their website now to take advantage of things like free bets and matching deposits. I also want to bring up, make sure you follow us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter at Grueling Truth, follow us on YouTube. And we had the betting.net play of the day, which today was a Big Ten game between Iowa and Purdue, which should be a great game tonight in Carver Hawkeye Arena.
What's your record on that?
I am 2-1, so we've hit 66% this week so far. So, and Iowa Purdue
have to give you $25 and have you bet it for me.
Oh, geez, I will teach you. This is what we need to do, all right? Because they want me to do a video where we take people and show them how to sign up and make a bet, and they'll actually give you the money to make the bet. So maybe our first show will be walking you through how to make a bet.
I would be a perfect candidate because I literally, and I love the fact that betting that now sponsors us. Pardon?
.net. You always screw up something.
Betting.net. I apologize to our sponsors. I don't not follow it. I just get confused.
That's a double
negative. Because I'm not a gambler by nature. But I'd like to learn to be, if I have people like you giving me numbers to work with where I don't lose. So, but I would
there's
be the
no such
candidate.
thing as not losing. But if you can hit 55 to 60%, that's pretty damn good. So these
Well,
guys that'll tell you they hit 75, 80% all the time and try to take your money, they're
yeah.
full of crap. So,
I'm willing to be your first guinea pig to see what I can do with it.
all right. So we look at what's coming up. On Saturday, the Indiana Hoosiers will travel to Maryland to play the Terrapins. The
Yeah.
Terrapins, of course, lost their coach Turgeon at the start of the year. Their last few games, I mean, they beat Rutgers at Rutgers, which is a solid win. They beat Illinois by 16. That was without Kofi Coburn, I think. Lost to Michigan by 19. Beat Maryland, or lost to Rutgers by 11 at home. So this is a team that's kind of been all over the place. They lost by 1 to Wisconsin, beaten the Northwestern by 7 at Northwestern. This is a dangerous game for Indiana, and what we need to see is for them to string 2 games in a row where the offensive efficiency is that good and the defense, because I think this team is on the verge of actually putting it all together now, Steve.
Um, Indiana.
Yeah.
I'm not as convinced as you are on it yet. I've got to see it happen more than one time. They have kind of demonstrated this play all season long when they're going in against quadrant 1 or quadrant 2 teams. You don't know which Indiana team is going to show up. You see the team that plays against Purdue, then you turn around and see. And I still, after watching the end of the Michigan game against Northwestern, because of the run over into the IU game last night, um, I would say that in the end, Michigan will be a quadrant 1 team. Um, they had some miscues and foul ups early in the year. They've got those recovered. Had a lot of COVID issues. This is a much better basketball team than their 10-9 or 10-8 record in the Big Ten or overall right now. I'm sorry, it's 10-8 overall. They're much better than that, and that loss is going to be a little more stinging to us because it will be a home loss to a quadrant 1 team by the time it's all said and done, and you just don't want any negativity in that. But I think Indiana's on the right track. It's why I think Mike is doing the right things. Anytime you got a new coach coming into a situation, now we never had to face that at IU, but everybody I've ever talked to who's had that multiple coaches coming in has just said it's a lot harder than you think it is to pick up a new system and to learn a new coach's style.
Well, the also thing is you got to figure to Coach Woodson's style and the system he wants to play with. He doesn't have the players yet because he hasn't had a chance
Right.
to
Yeah,
recruit
he's
his
playing.
guys.
He's playing with Archie Miller's players for the most part. Now Miller was kind enough to leave him a couple pretty solid players,
He's playing
and
with him better than what Archie did.
well, that's obvious because
Yeah.
I think Indiana's going to make the dance. But I do agree that Indiana's on the right track. I don't know if they're quite there yet. I think that you look at the next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 games, they have to go to Maryland, play Illinois at home. They got to go to Northwestern, and then right off that trip, they're going to drive right north to Lansing and play Michigan State. Come home and play Wisconsin, and then they're going to turn around and go to Ohio State.
Yeah.
That's going to determine how good this basketball team is right there. They've got to get. They really need to have a winning record going through those games. They can't hope to get to 500.
Yeah, and
They've got to be better than 500 going through those 6 ball games.
when you look at this is big because after the Maryland game, you actually have a week to rest before you play Illinois at home.
Yeah.
This Maryland game to me is big. The Northwestern game's big because those are 2 games they have to win.
Right.
Illinois, Coburn's had some issues injury-wise, but that's a team I think they can beat. You go to Michigan State, you host Wisconsin, you go to Ohio State. So to me, the Maryland and Northwestern games are almost mandatory. You got to get them. And if you can slip in a Wisconsin and Illinois win, even if you lose at Michigan State and Ohio State, you're sitting pretty good to make the tournament.
Yeah, and don't forget they end the season at Purdue.
Yeah, but they also, the 3 games before that, is Maryland at home, at Minnesota, Rutgers at home. This is set up pretty good, I think, for this team right now. And if they don't implode or have injury issues, which they do have right now with Rob Fennessy, but I also think with Rob Fennessy being out, that it kind of makes Xavier Johnson even more important. And
Right.
maybe that's why we saw him play better. I mean, there's no, well, we can put Rob in if you're not playing well. They need Rob. They need Xavier Johnson to play well.
Yeah. Did we get any final word on what the injury was to Rob? Has it come out yet?
No. I mean, it probably has. I didn't even look it up because really to me, I mean, he made that
I
shot.
checked the wires this morning and there was nothing, just that he was
It's a
under
leg
evaluation.
injury, I know that.
Pardon?
It's a leg injury, I know that.
That's good.
Because
Way
he
to
said
go,
it was
Mike.
his leg. What do
Okay.
you mean?
We'll take that. No, but yeah, I was funning you, Mike.
He's supposed to be evaluated sometime today.
Yeah.
So
So-
and the other one there is Christian Lander when he'll be ready.
Yeah.
So,
But they've
one
got
of them
other
needs to get
step up
back.
players. I mean, the one thing I did notice yesterday, what Mike was doing was he was leaving his rotation in for a fair amount of time, and I really liked that. I was watching the second half, and I thought, okay, he's going to start subbing here pretty soon, get his bigs out, get those guys not injury opportunities, or get them some rest when you can. But he left that rotation in for a good 7 minutes, 5, 6, 7, 8 minutes. You're right in that area. Closer to about 7, I think I timed it, and I stopped timing it. But I like that. I like the fact that he's letting these guys play as a unit, and you can see that he's whittling it down to a 7 or 8 man rotation. He's playing 10 or 11 players, but it drops off significantly after the top 8.
Yeah, now the last 3 or 4 guys are getting 6 or 7 minutes.
Yeah. It's just kind of rest period time for the 7 or 8 guys in the rotation. I still think you can get more out of Kopp and who's 32,
Galloway.
You can get more out of them, but they're not getting the length of minutes I'd like to see them get either. Neither one scoring at a clip I'd like to have them. Miller was a little more offensive minded last night, so all things are pointing in the right direction, which is why I continue to say I'm not going to start bashing or ripping Mike for what he's doing right now. I haven't been to a practice yet.
You got to drive up there to practice next week. They're off the whole week.
Yeah, that's a nice haul.
Jump in your car. It'll be like Chevy Chase in National Lampoon's Vacation.
Yeah, exactly. I'll get stuck in St.
out.
Louis too.
Yeah, bring Ross and Tia, and you guys could get lost a couple times and show up 3 days after the Maryland game, or after
there
the
you go.
game
Yeah.
after Maryland.
If we're going to Wally World, that's fine with me.
Well, I don't even know. I think Wally World was made up.
No, they actually used Kings Island.
Yeah, but it's still made up because it's Kings Island.
Actually, they did not. They used a theme park that was about 25 minutes north of us in Santa Clarita called Six Flags over Santa Clarita, I think.
All right, Steve. We'll be back. Do you want to come back before the next game or after the next game? Well,
I say we let one ride here. Let's let the Maryland game ride because I think, again, you and I both are very thirsty for a road win for this basketball team. I say we give it till let's prep before Illinois and evaluate the Maryland game. See if we can get a road win up in Maryland. Your scouting has said that Maryland is having a down year, but
they're having a down year, but they're doing it with a lot of talent, and every once in a while they jump up and beat somebody.
Yeah, and Indiana is one of those teams that's carrying a bullseye on its back right now, and you look at teams like Michigan that elevated their play significantly to play Indiana on national TV, and we just weren't prepared for that game. Maryland's another one of these trap games, as you call them, where the same thing could happen. We go up there and thinking, they're not as good as they used to be, and then the fans go a little rabid, and they get a big turnout because it's Indiana coming to town, and Indiana's hot right now for the most part. They're dance material, and strange things happen. So I say we come back after the Maryland game, just before the Illinois game. Helps us set the tone for how they got to play against Illinois, and then we can look ahead a little bit to Northwestern Michigan. The only back-to-back road trip, as you said last show, the only back-to-back road trip they have. So we'll have a lot to talk about in terms of what the future looks like based on the results we've gotten, in my opinion.
All right, Steve. So make sure you follow Steve Risley at srisley34. You can follow me at Grilling Truth. But guys, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up for now. We will talk to you next week after a win, hopefully over the Maryland Terrapins. So for Steve Risley, I'm Mike Goodpaster. You've been watching and listening to The Grilling Truth, where the legends speak.